I never expected that a peaceful morning at home could shift my viewpoint on various matters. That day, the residence exuded an extraordinary stillness. With father away on a business trip, Avami found that her stepmother had claimed the morning for her own purposes. As I lounged on the couch in the living room, my laptop perched on my lap, I focused on my tasks, the soft sound of the shower providing a gentle backdrop. The upper floor echoed within the otherwise quiet home, revealing a mundane scene, unexceptional and tedious, until I detected a subtle thud from the staircase. Curious, I looked up to find Ava coming down, wrapped in a large, soft towel, her wet hair clinging to her shoulders. Beads of water glistened on her skin. She seemed to be in a rush, having overlooked my presence. Her gaze unintentionally settled upon me. "Good morning," I remarked casually, trying to ease the looming tension. Helen came to a sudden stop, clearly surprised. "James, I had no idea you were here," she said, a shy grin spreading across her face as she lifted my laptop. "I sincerely apologize for any concern that may have arisen. Today, I find myself working from home," she chuckled with a hint of anxiety, gripping the towel more firmly around her. She offered comfort. "All good. I intended only to collect my phone and leave." As she stepped down the last stair, an unexpected incident unfolded. As her foot caught on the edge of the rug, she stumbled for a brief moment, a fleeting lapse in her otherwise steady stride. The towel slipped from her grasp, its loose knot giving way and allowing it to cascade to the floor. Time seemed to freeze as Ava gasped, swiftly crouching to retrieve the towel, her cheeks flushing a deep crimson. "Oh my gosh, I'm really sorry," she murmured, clumsily trying to rewrap herself. I swiftly averted my gaze, my cheeks burning as I caught sight of her skin, but I hurriedly tried to banish the thought from my mind. It felt peculiar. I had never viewed her through this lens before. She was merely my father's wife, nothing beyond that. Yet, in that moment, everything transformed. "I sincerely apologize." Avast Amard stays the same, crouching down to retrieve the towel in a bid to cover herself once again. "I hadn't expected anyone to be there." "It's fine," he muttered, still looking away. I could feel my heart racing intensely. "There's no need for worry." She took a deep breath. Her voice was soft and quiet. "That experience was rather embarrassing." I nodded, the adrenaline still coursing through my chest. Following a brief moment of uneasy silence, I tentatively turned my gaze back toward her. She had managed to grasp the towel, looking more embarrassed than I had ever seen her before. She expressed the need to exercise more caution. She forced a smile, trying to mask her discomfort. Gave her a subtle smile, trying to ease the tension. "It truly was an unforeseen incident, Helen." She looked at me, her gaze lingering a moment longer than usual, as if we were both trying to brush aside the unease between us. Yet, the silence that lingered between us seemed heavier than it ought to be. The image of her physique lingered in my mind just before she reached for the towel. From that point on, our exchanges changed. Whenever I saw her, the air was thick with feelings that remained unspoken. Her gaze upon me was laced with caution, her eyes searching mine as if trying to determine how we would act next after the incident. I, too, discovered that I was reflecting this examination. Every look and unintentional brush now carried a deeper meaning. That evening, after dinner, I settled onto the couch, my mind swirling with the day's strange events. It was a peaceful night, with Dad away on business and Ava having withdrawn to her room. Sooner than expected, I thought that was the end of the discussion. Yet, much later, I heard a gentle knock at my door. To my surprise, Aveso showed up, which was completely unexpected. I took a brief moment to gather my thoughts before responding. She stood at the doorway, a flicker of unease in her demeanor, yet undeniably determined. She asked if she had disturbed me. Her voice carried a softness, tinged with a hint of uncertainty. I paused for a moment, surprised by the unexpected arrival. "It's perfectly all right. What seems to be the issue?" I asked. Ava inhaled deeply. Her hands nervously fidgeted with the hem of her robe as she seemed to weigh her words carefully. "I have been contemplating the previous incident, and I would like to check in." how are you doing?" Her remarks left me utterly speechless. Was I, for a brief moment, in a state of contentment? How might I reply when my thoughts were woven with feelings I couldn't define? Emotions I had never experienced before, feelings I had not recognized I could hold for her. "I'm doing well," I finally said, trying to sound as casual as possible. Yet, my voice wavered just a bit, betraying my doubt as my expression twisted uncomfortably. Regarding how to go, it was only unforeseen. That is all. Ava nodded, a subtle, knowing grin gracing the corners of her lips. I get it was an accident, although she faltered thereafter, moved somewhat nearer. Circumstances appear altered today, do they not? I could not dispute the evident transformation in our relationship, marked by an unarticulated yet potent tension. I nodded slowly, our gazes locked, and for an extended period, neither of us spoke. The atmosphere between us was laden with unarticulated sentiments, burdened by our emotions. I was uncertain of the situation or how to comprehend it, yet as I gazed at her standing nearby, I could not refute the compelling attraction between us. Ava walked closer to her. In a voice barely above a whisper, "James, I believe I have been experiencing emotions that I do not fully comprehend." Her remarks were soft and delicate, as if she were divulging a secret that had been burdening her as well. I inhaled the atmosphere, suddenly feeling diminished. The silence grew more profound. I yearned to articulate my thoughts, yet the words lodged in my throat. Instead, I instinctively advanced, reducing the space between us. Without deliberation, I extended my hand, my fingers grazing her arm, eliciting a jolt in both of us. She gazed up at me, her expression ambiguous yet optimistic. I discerned the turmoil in her eyes, coupled with a subdued yearning, and that sufficed before either of us could reconsider. My lips leaned in, softly touching hers. First, it was delicate and tentative. A mere touch, yet at the convergence of our lips, I experienced an irrefutable spark. Helen's breath caught, and I sensed her body yield against mine. The kiss intensified as she reciprocated, her arms around me and drawing me nearer, and I mirrored her actions with my hands, discovering her waist and sensing the warmth of her flesh beneath the robe. Each touch and kiss appeared to diminish the distance. The kiss intensified as we surrendered to the feelings we had been suppressing. It was not only a kiss. It was an admission, a tacit recognition of what had been developing between us. However, reality soon ensued. We retreated, both of us panting, faces heated and hearts beating. "I'm sorry," Ava muttered, her eyes brimming with emotion. With trepidation, I continued to shake my head, reeling from the intensity of recent events. "I do not regret our stance." We lingered for a bit longer, both grappling with the implications of our newfound awareness, cognizant that the path ahead would be intricate and unpredictable. But, for the time being, all we possessed was this moment. A mutual connection emerged that none of us could disregard following that kiss. The quiet between us was dense and oppressive. Burdened by the weight of unspoken words, Ava slowly withdrew from me, her eyes averted. Initially, I discerned the doubt reflected in her gaze. The identical vulnerability that had previously existed was evident as her palm trembled slightly. As she tucked a stray strand of hair behind her ear, I was unprepared for her words, which emerged as a whisper, as if she feared uttering anything inappropriate. I did not anticipate any of this. I shifted back a bit, my heart still pounding in my chest, reflecting on the meaning of the kiss I had just experienced. She returned my kiss. I positioned my hands on her chest, applying a soft pressure, and leaned in to kiss her, savoring the moment. In that instant, the depth of our collective experience was unmistakable. Yet, there was something about it that felt both wrong and somehow permissible. I finally found my voice, though it came out a bit raspy, as I struggled to grasp the reality of what I had just done. I had not foreseen this, yet it appeared that we both needed it. She came to accept it slowly over time. Once more, our eyes locked, if just for a brief moment. Everything else appears to fade away. We lingered in the quiet of the night, our feelings hanging in the air like a fragile thread, ready to either snap or weave a bond depending on the paths we chose. "I don't want to hurt anyone," she murmured, her voice a whisper, almost lost in the air. Particularly not your father. I have consistently strived to act in accordance with what is just. Her words resonated with me more deeply than I had expected, uncovering the struggle she endured between her feelings and her responsibilities. A conflict I also faced, caught between the call of virtue and the truth of the present moment. I comprehend, I responded, my tone steady even amidst the chaos inside. Nonetheless, we must acknowledge what occurred. We must not pretend to be unaware. Ava looked deeply into my eyes, perhaps in search of comfort or a recognition of her inner struggles. She took a deep breath, filling her lungs completely, then released it slowly. Slowly, I begin to grasp, yet it still falls short. The silence lingered between us, each of us hesitant about what to do next. Simple solutions eluded us, and a definitive path remained out of reach. Yet, I was convinced of the undeniable pull I experienced towards her. The kiss transcended mere passion. It was a declaration, a recognition of a desire we had both been holding back. The next morning, I rose to discover a profound stillness enveloping the house. In keeping with her routine, Ava has already departed for her work in the garden, leaving me alone with my thoughts, which endlessly replay the events of the previous night. Each kiss and touch remained etched in my mind as I sat at the breakfast table, pondering what might unfold next. Shall we return to a state of normalcy, or shall we continue navigating this complex journey? The focus extended beyond just the occurrences of the night before. The moment was filled with emotions, reflecting the connection that had been slowly blossoming between us. A matter that proves difficult to reverse. I heard footsteps nearing and, upon turning, I found her at the kitchen doorway, radiating her usual beauty. Nonetheless, a noticeable shift in her demeanor was evident, as she seemed more composed. Yet, a hint of anxiety flickered in her eyes as she offered a soft greeting. Greetings of the day. Our eyes locked in the soft light of the morning. I replied. In my effort to stay composed, I felt my heart racing, a remnant of the anxiety from the previous night, lingering in the space between us. In silence, I brewed the coffee, she remarked. Her voice carried a newfound lightness. Would you care for some? Thank you. I responded. As I rose to grab a cup, I watched her move through the kitchen, the soft melody of her humming filling the air. She tried to maintain an appearance of normalcy, but I could see the subtle shake in her hands as she poured the coffee. She shared my anxiety. She offered me a cup, and for a fleeting moment, we lingered in silence. As we exchanged glances, it became clear that articulating our thoughts was a challenge for both of us, even as we tried to grasp the situation at hand. After a lengthy pause, she finally spoke, asking, "Are you all right?" I took a deep breath, striving to calm the chaos inside me. Indeed, I am well. I have simply been reflecting on everything. As I locked eyes with her, I noticed the same bewilderment and longing reflected back at me. What unfolds next? Ava did not respond right away. She set her coffee down on the counter and walked over to me. She paused just a few feet away, her gaze locked onto mine, and I felt the weight of her silent message. Prior to her initiating conversation with them, I am uncertain. What occurs next? She said gently. Do you realize that last night held greater significance for me than I anticipated, and I cannot feign that it did not transpire? She hesitated and then continued. However, I am uncertain how we can progress from this point. The candor of her words struck me profoundly, leaving me momentarily at a loss for how to address the evident sensitivity and sincerity that indicated her struggle. Sharing my sentiments, I expressed my hesitation softly, suggesting that we should resolve the matter collaboratively. She nodded, her eyes reflecting a blend of doubt and an indescribable emotion. Yet in that instant, I realized we were in agreement. We had transgressed a boundary that could not be reversed, and now we needed to choose the subsequent course of action in the next few days. We're imbued with a novel form of tension. We did not revisit the subject of the kiss, yet the moments we experienced were distinct. Every glance and caress carried a profound weight. Our bond was undeniable. The upcoming journey was clearly going to be challenging. Yet, Witnessing Ava's reluctance to express her thoughts and her continued closeness made it clear to me that I could not let go, no matter the situation. Amidst this feeling, there lay a layer of importance. A connection so profound lingered between us, impossible to pretend it wasn't there. Ava and I acknowledged the difficult path ahead, filled with unpredictability and tough choices. In that moment, I felt a new sense of certainty, an awareness that the connection we shared deserved to be delved into. Consequently, we began implementing gradual steps. In the quest for understanding, there were no guarantees or easy answers to be found. Yet, a connection had formed between us that had deepened. No matter what happened afterward, we acknowledged its unmistakable essence. Just when the moment seemed to embrace a serene calm, an outside noise shattered the peace. The sound of a car door slamming echoed, soon accompanied by the rhythmic footsteps on the porch. It was he, her spouse, his progenitor. Helen's eyes grew wide with sudden fear, and she instinctively pulled away from James with a quick movement. Desire was not something she was missing. On the contrary. Yet, everything surrounding this situation now seemed flawed, as if it had spiraled into a labyrinth of complexity. Reality is fraught with danger. I cannot imagine her hands trembling as she backed away, her spine pressed against the cold wall of the corridor, while James stood frozen in his feelings. His heart raced as he felt the sting of her dismissal, yet it lacked the authenticity of true rejection. She felt a sense of unease, anxious about the potential consequences of this relationship and the depth of its change. In such a brief moment, mother of wonder, we must not stop, James declared. His voice, soft yet charged with urgency, unveiled the deep turmoil reflected in her eyes, echoing the longing he had shown during their kiss moments earlier. This occurrence cannot be overlooked. I am unable to do that. Helen's breath caught in her throat, and she shook her head, tears welling in her eyes. You fail to understand, James, the consequences if your father finds out about this. The sound of the front door slamming cut through her words. The interruption came from the opening, affecting both of them. She paused, as though the very fabric of reality had shifted, the weight of the truth crashing down upon her. Ava hurried to the window, gently pulling back the curtain to glance at the driveway. Your dad's here, she whispered, her voice strained with fear. It is imperative to leave. James found himself utterly speechless. All seemed to be falling apart. The bond they once shared, filled with fervor and clarity, now hung in the balance, threatened by the weight of their situation. They were deeply intertwined and committed, and the outside world was poised to make a substantial entrance. Neither was able to manage the circumstances. I'll take my leave, James stated. His heart sank as he stepped back, the moment between them slipping away like sand through his fingers. Yet, Helen stayed still, her silence stretching on as she fixed her gaze on the door, her fingers clenched tightly at her sides. She was clearly torn between her moral convictions and the undeniable truths she could not reject. As she started to express her ideas, the sound of footsteps drawing near grew louder. Echoing through the hallway, her partner lingered mere feet from the doorway. Her heart raced, and she understood that there was little time to clarify or fix the situation. There was only a fleeting moment to bury the occurrences, to lock them away in the depths of the past, ensuring they could not rise again to haunt them. I will take my leave. To my room, James said, his voice barely above a whisper as he turned and ascended the stairs. It felt like a deep betrayal, yet no other option existed. Ava watched him leave, a heavy feeling settling in her chest. She longed to reach out and speak words that could mend the rift, yet in that moment, she found herself unable to do so. The evening unfolded shrouded in mist. The house echoed with the sounds of everyday life, yet none could pretend that the situation had not shifted. Helen and her spouse continued with their evening routine, partaking in light-hearted conversation. Her mind wandered, consumed by thoughts of James. The events that transpired, the kiss, and the intense longing reflected in his gaze after dinner. Alone in the kitchen, she washed the dishes as night enveloped the world outside, silent beneath the stars. Lost in contemplation, she heard the gentle creak of the door behind her. Turning, she beheld James in the doorway, his expression inscrutable. He recognized your concerns. Softly, his tone was muted, yet we cannot pretend that our feelings are anything but real. It is not fading away for me, Helen. She shut her eyes, a single tear rolling down her cheek. I have a deep-seated apprehension towards James. I am deeply concerned about the possible repercussions for everyone involved, including you and your father. James moved in, his heart racing as he tenderly cradled her face in his hand. This situation can be addressed, and we can proceed with care. Nevertheless, we cannot simply overlook her. Her lips trembled as she looked up at him, her breath trapped in her chest. I find myself at a loss regarding how to resolve this issue. What steps can I take to come back? Amidst the facade of normalcy, James's eyes lingered on her, fully cognizant of the weight of their shared desire. He longed to hold her close and promise her that all would be all right, but he was aware of the reality within himself. It could never be that simple. I find myself in a state of uncertainty. He might have whispered, yet I understand that we cannot simply forsake what belongs to us. Ava momentarily shut her eyes. My face is averted from him. I need some time. James, she whispered gently. I need to determine my purpose and the importance of this situation. With that, she gently stepped away from him, her heart weighed down by the choice she knew she had to face. As she moved toward the living room, James stayed frozen in the kitchen, his heart torn between his desires and his sense of duty. Days morphed into weeks, and the silence that lingered between them deepened. The house transformed into something beyond just a home. The place was filled with unspoken emotions. Unspoken feelings lingered during their meetings, generating a palpable tension, yet neither knew how to bridge the gap. Amidst them, Ava sought to focus her thoughts on her. Her days were consumed by the routine of daily chores. Yet, her mind continually drifted back to James and that instant. Their shared experiences haunted her, especially the way he had kissed her and how she had responded, despite the numerous occasions. The stakes had never been higher. Could she truly continue down this path, fully cognizant of the possible consequences? James, as well, wrestled with his feelings. The memory of her lips' tenderness against his lingered, as did the way his heart had raced in that moment. Yet, as time went on, the truth became harder to ignore. They could not pretend that this was simply a momentary meeting. The occurrences that unfolded between them were beyond reversal, transforming both persons in ways they struggled to understand. Neither dictated the course of events that would unfold. As the tension mounted between them, they both came to understand a singular truth. They faced the challenge of determining if they could sustain their distance or find a way to come together. Ultimately, the passage of time will unveil the result.